Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first in our series of Teal Table Talks. Today, we are meeting with some athletes in our organization, on our Spina Bifida Association of Greater New England organization. We're going to talk to them about their sports and advice that they may have for other people. And this is all part of our week-long series of healthy living that we're doing as part of our virtual walk and roll and summer picnic series for 2021. And I want to start by thanking our sponsors very much for making all of this programming possible. Our silver sponsor is Coloplast. Our bronze sponsors are Boston Children's Hospital Neurology Foundation, Hollister, Mass General Hospital for Children, Mobility Works, and Permobile, and our friend level sponsor is National Seating and Mobility. So thank you very much to all of those organizations for their generous support of SBAGNE. So I want to start by introducing everyone, and most of you know me by now. I'm the executive director here at Spina Bifida Association for Greater New England. I'm Jenn Bertschmann, and I'm going to ask everybody to just go around and introduce themselves, and I'll go in my grid as I see it on my screen. So we'll start with Jenn Fitz-Roy.
My name is Jennifer Fitz-Roy. I live and work in Boston and in Brighton. I've been involved with SBAGNE for almost 20 years now as a volunteer and past board member. I have participated in a bunch of different adaptive sports over my life, but my main sport is para rowing. I train in a community rowing Inc. With the U.S. Paranational Training Center, and I'm aspiring to the national team.
That's awesome, thank you. And next is Enock Glidden.
Hi, my name is Enock Glidden. I've been with SBAGNE for about a year on the board. Before that, I hadn't really been involved in the disability community a whole lot as an advocate, but recently wanted to start getting more into the advocacy part of the community. Early on in life, I did a lot of sports, wheelchair racing, basketball, and I was inspired to get into sports through my phys ed teacher in junior high. Recently, though, I started becoming an avid rock climber. And in 2016, I climbed El Capitan in Yosemite National Park and have been working toward some pretty big goals in the rock climbing arena. So that's my main sport as of right now.
That's awesome, thank you. And Elaina Cardenas.
Hi, my name is Elaina Cardenas. I'm 18 years old. I've been with SBAGNE for pretty much my whole life. My main sport, and you can call it a sport, some people like to say it's not a sport, but it is. I do wheelchair dance sport or wheelchair ballroom dancing, and I've been doing that for about maybe 8 or 9 years. I haven't really been able to do it a lot because of COVID, but hopefully soon I'll be getting back into it because it's like my main passion in life. I love it a lot.
Thank you. And Jeremy Evans.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy Evans. I'm from Attleboro, Massachusetts, and I'm currently going to school in Pennsylvania at Edinburgh University, where I am playing on the wheelchair basketball team. So that is my main sport right now. And I started playing basketball when I was 5, but I transitioned to wheelchair basketball when I graduated from high school. So now it's what I'm doing pretty much full time. Other than being a student, I am going into my second year as an MBA student. So, and I've been involved with SBAGNE for a very, very long time. I started off as a participant and kind of grew into a mentor as I got into high school, and it's been a great journey so far.
Thank you. That's how we get you. Well, yeah, so thank you. All of you introduced a little bit about the sports that you're currently involved in. Can you talk a little bit about how I know you've all dabbled in a lot of different things. How did you sort of narrow your focus and move into the one that you're really passionate about right now? And these questions are for anybody, so just jump in. I should have said that.
I can go first again. So as a kid, I grew up in New Jersey and didn't have a lot of opportunities for adaptive sports, but I was a member of my YMCA and I did a lot of swimming. I came up here to Boston for school and started getting involved with organizations like Northeast Passage, and just tried a bunch of different sports. I think my first was hand cycling, and then kayaking. And I eventually was able to get my own hand cycle, and I started doing it like on my own and would gather with people for group rides and things like that. And I really enjoyed that sport. I did a century ride through the White Mountains of New Hampshire a few years after I started. I did like some kayaking out west and at Yellowstone and the Boundary Waters in Minnesota. And I would come, like there was one season I tried mono skiing up at Loon Mountain with Disabled Sports USA. I think that they have changed their name to Move United, if I'm not mistaken. And I also did like some water skiing, and so I still go every summer. It's been canceled because of COVID, but for about like maybe 10 years or so, I've been going every summer to Merrimack and trying that for a couple of weeks. And I did some rowing. Was something that was local to me. It was something that I didn't have to go all the way up to New Hampshire for. It was a sport that like I could do regularly. I started out with indoor rowing, and then progressed to the water. And my indoor rowing scores earned me an invitation to the high performance group at my boathouse, and a lot of people in that group are members of the national team. And so I just started getting competitive from there. So yeah, I tried a bunch of like different things, and it was the sport that was a little more like accessible to me and had a regular schedule. And it's something outdoors. I love being outdoors. I love camping and things like that. So it took some experimentation, but yeah, eventually found like what I loved, the program and the sport.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I guess I can go next. Like Jennifer, I tried a lot of things when I was younger because I had a phys ed teacher, Bob Dyer, in junior high, who really pushed me to try things. And it was because of that, he took me skiing at Maine Adaptive Sports and Recreation. He got me into wheelchair racing and hand cycling and golf, and he just pushed me to do all the things that all the other kids were doing in phys ed. Even I participated in soccer. I would hold the ball in my hand and someone would push me, which made me really popular because we pretty much won every game. And so it became a thing that I was inspired to just keep trying things. And so later on in life, I've also tried paragliding and hang gliding and flying airplanes, and I've got 60 hours flight time. And so I've always realized that there really wasn't anything I couldn't do because of him, because all I had to do was find a way. And about 7 years ago, I was inspired by a friend, actually the loss of a friend, on Mount Rainier to get into rock climbing. I saw all the places that rock climbing took him and all the amazing places and views that he got to see because of that. And I decided I wanted to see those things for myself. So I went on Google to find a way, and I found an organization called Paradox Sports, and they teach people with disabilities how to rock climb and ice climb. And so I signed up for their event in New York that year, and I found a sport that I could do a lot more cheaply than monoskiing or most of the other sports because it doesn't require $8,000 worth of equipment.
Yeah.
And it was a sport that I could do with a couple of people helping me without a massive amount of infrastructure. And it was a ultimate challenge because it was just me and the rock. There wasn't anybody helping me or doing anything other than what you would normally do with any other rock climber. So it became this ultimate challenge. And then I decided I wanted to get up Mount Rainier, which is 14,000 feet and a little bit more. And I haven't done it quite yet, but I am working toward it. And that's sort of my ultimate goal, is to get to the top of Mount Rainier. So that's most of the history of my rock climbing.
That's amazing. Both of you are a lot more adventurous than I am, and I would never arm wrestle either one of you, I think. Elaina, well, how about you?
So I got into wheelchair dance because of the show Dancing with the Stars. My mom and I watched it religiously every Monday night for years. And then I had the opportunity to meet one of the dancers from the show, Tony Dovolani. And after that day, my mom just casually asked me, would you be interested in looking for a dance instructor to teach you? And I was like, that's a thing. Like, there are people qualified to teach me. So we found one in East Hartford, and I went for my first lesson, and I instantly fell in love with it. I was like, this is what I'm meant to do now. I finally have something I can like work towards, like a goal for my life. And the rest is history. Unfortunately, I had to bounce through a couple of different instructors because my first one moved due to personal issues in his life. But my current dance teacher is in Norwood, and I'm hoping I can go back and dance with him again soon. And yeah, it's just, I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else, honestly.
That's fantastic. And Jeremy, how about you?
So from an early age, I think like when I was 5, my parents really honestly put me in everything. Like it was really my dad put me in everything possible. And I kind of owe it all to them because I wouldn't be where I am without that. I feel like they didn't know about adaptive sports back then, so those options weren't really in our radar. But they kind of treated it as allowing me to do whatever my brother or my sister was doing physically. So my brother was into basketball, baseball, soccer. So when I turned 4 or 5, that's immediately when my dad put me in, and I kind of stuck with mainly those 3 sports all throughout elementary school, middle school, into high school. I think I dropped baseball and soccer probably like towards 10th or 11th grade. And then I just wanted to focus only on basketball because that was pretty much like the first sport that I remember playing, and it was the one that instantly clicked for me. So I focused on that into my junior and senior year. And this was before I was playing wheelchair basketball. So I played on the varsity team at my high school, but I didn't really get a lot of a playing time. And so that was always an issue that I had, even with like AAU teams and like really competitive teams. A lot of the coaches didn't really know how to I guess, work with an athlete with a disability. So once I graduated high school and coming to that realization, or more so that acceptance, I realized that if I wanted to continue playing at a higher level, then it would be in my best interest to make that transition to wheelchair basketball. And actually, the way that I found out about wheelchair basketball was through a SBAGNE program when I was a senior in high school, because one of the segments was adaptive sports, and that was the first time I tried it back in 2014. So
awesome.
I kind of like instantly fell in love with it.
That's great. And all of you have touched on this a little bit, but can you brag a little bit about some successes that you've had in your, excuse me, in your current sport? And then maybe what are your goals for yourself going forward as you continue to be engaged. Want to go backwards this time? Jeremy, you go first.
Achievements. I mean, for wheelchair basketball, I'm still kind of early in my journey with it. So realistically, my biggest achievement is just being recruited at this point, which was a big deal for me because I didn't really think of that as even being a possibility. When I first started, I only played one tournament back in 2014, and then I wanted to focus on my undergrad studies. So I stepped back from it until 2019, and that was after I had already graduated from undergrad. So I never really thought of even playing at this level in college. So I would say this is my biggest achievement.
And what are you looking forward to in the future with this?
Hopefully, ideally, playing overseas, playing professionally, D1, even the national team. So that's really what my sights are set on.
That's amazing. Elaina, how about you? I know COVID has put a crimp in your plans, but what I know one thing that I haven't heard you talk about yet, which is being on the Today Show. I'd love to hear about that, and then maybe talk about what your goals are going forward with your dance.
Yeah, so a few years ago, well, maybe more than a few, I would say I was maybe 11 or 12. The Today Show reached out because they somehow heard my story, and I got to do a little itty bitty segment, which was really cool. My big break. And that was, I think that things like that are very important because we need to see more disability representation with sports. So it was a really cool opportunity to be able to do that. I also was able to do my first ever competition maybe 3 years ago. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't know it was a competition at first because my dance teacher kind of told me that it was just going to be a performance. So I had no idea that I was competing, which I guess helped because I did end up placing first, not to brag or anything. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure if I want to continue competing or if I just want to do it kind of recreationally, because I did enjoy competing, but I'm also I'm not the best at taking criticism, so it's easier on me to just kind of do it for fun as of right now, but maybe in the future I would like to compete.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Enock, I know you talked a little bit about your experience climbing El Capitan, but can you talk a little bit more about that? Like there's a film of you, and it's a pretty big deal.
So I got the idea from a friend who worked for Paradox Sports. We were writing a grant to do something, and I was going to go to Alaska, and ski. But the grant was going to pay out after that. I still went to Alaska, but so we decided to write it for El Capitan. And I got the grant and went out to Yosemite for 5 weeks and hung out in the valley and met all the climbers and really got to know people. And that first year I realized I didn't know enough to climb El Capitan. So I decided I better do something less daunting first and then learn something and then come back and try it again. So I climbed Washington Column partway up, about 800 feet up, and we lived out on a portaledge for the night, and I learned some things that I needed, like a camp toilet and some other things that I needed that would make it a lot more comfortable living on a rock for 5 days. So I came back, and one of my friends, Sean O'Neill, who I met through Paradox Sports, trained me for an entire year and doing pull-ups on a rope in his tree out behind his house. And I would try to do at least 10 laps a day, which was about 300 to 400 feet a day. And then I would go up, he would lower me back down, and I'd go back up again. So I did that for a year, and he taught me some of the other things about living on the portaledge and things that I needed to know. And then I went back, of course, and it took 15 people to pull it off. It took, because it's about a 4-hour, well, it was about a 4-hour hike to the base of the climb,
Wow.
because they had to carry me. So they carried me in a rescue litter, and I was tied down, and so that I wouldn't fall out or anything. And they just kept switching off 6 people at a time, carrying me over boulders and some really rough terrain, and until I got to the bottom. And then it was just me and 2 climbers. So I had a guy that went ahead of us, Christian Cattell, and he would set the rope for me. And then Craig Murdelak was filming the whole thing and cleaning all the gear behind Christian. And so we just kept setting ropes and doing pull-ups for 5 whole days and made it to the top. And then it took 17 hours for them to carry me back down.
Wow.
So it was there's a thing called the East Ledges. It's where all the climbers get off the top if they don't rappel back down. And so they carried me through some pretty horrible terrain. And there was the manzanita bushes, they call them. They're the sharpest thing in nature ever. They were cutting people's legs, and it was a pretty brutal 17 hours. But we made it down. I think it was almost exactly midnight when we made it back to my van. So it was a pretty amazing experience.
And how was the view from the top?
Oh, there's nothing like, everything looks so perfect from up there. It's like everything is where it's meant to be. It's pretty amazing. So it's Half Dome to the left, and then the valley below, and then I mean, it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
That's remarkable.
And that's really why I like to climb, because you can only get that view that one way.
Right.
It's pretty amazing.
Most people will never see that.
That is true.
Yeah. And Jen, how about you?
So like Jeremy, like one of my biggest accomplishments is just like being asked to the high performance group for my coaches to say like, okay, like she has the potential to be an elite rower. I started out in indoor rowing, and I have the world record for the 6K and also the half marathon. I have a world indoor rowing medal for the 1K, like at the start of the pandemic. And I've just had a lot of opportunities due to my program and due to grants from Challenged Athletes Foundation and the Para Rowing Foundation and other groups who like believe in me and see my potential. So in indoor rowing, I've done the Crash Bees a couple of years and won first place in that. And para rowing is still, like such a small sport. But in like 2019, I did the Royal Canadian Henley. So that was, like fun, like driving up there with my teammates. I did head of the Charles, and I also did the 2019 national trials and placed second. And earlier this year, I did the Paralympic trials with a brand new partner. He came up from Florida to train with me, and so we went down to the Paralympic trials in New Jersey and got second place, and just like had the opportunity to compete and to be down there and support the sport.
That's incredible. Just all of this is amazing. Can you guys talk a little bit about your training regimen? So both in terms of physically what you're doing, but nutrition, hydration, what do you have to do to be able to perform at this level? Let's see, mix it up a little more. I'm going to start with Elaina.
So for me, when I first started out, I was on a pretty strict exercise. I was doing like hundreds of crunches and push-ups, and we didn't restrict my diet too much. You just kind of had to make sure I wasn't eating too much junk food. And now my workout regimen is a little more relaxed. I go to physical therapy. We just had to renew my prescription for it, so I haven't been doing it for a little bit, but I'm going to be going back. And so I'll do that, and then I'll do whatever exercises my physical therapist gives me, with a main focus on upper body strength, because that's, what I'm using as my way of getting around, both in general and in dance. So a lot of I like to focus on like weightlifting, and just general upper body strengthening exercise.
Awesome. Enock, how about you?
So when I'm getting ready for a climb, I'll try to do at least 400 pull-ups a day, and then weight training. As far as nutrition, just a lot of calories mostly, but protein also. And then hydration is a really big thing, because when you're climbing, you can't use the bathroom. So it's, especially for an adaptive climber, because you're on a rope, there's nowhere to go. And so it's a really fine balancing act of drinking enough but not drinking too much. And so that was a big thing on El Cap, was trying to get enough but not too much, so that I could make it to the next portaledge where I could use the bathroom. And so that was a big thing. And so I would eat cereal bars while I was climbing, and sip water but not guzzle water, and so that was a big issue for sure.
Very delicate balance.
Yeah.
Jeremy, how about you?
So I'm going to tell you what I was supposed to do. I'm going to tell you what I actually do.
All right, fair.
So basically, as of right now, I'm in off-season training. So I'll just kind of run down my schedule. I have it right in front of me because I created it for myself. So on Sunday, I either treat it as a rest day or an abs day, like if I feel like doing something. On Monday, I lift. I do shooting. So it's just a whole bunch of shooting drills, which is a lot. Probably like 25 shots each spot, and at multiple different ranges. And like moving shots, spot up shots, layups, is a whole bunch of stuff. Tuesday, I do resistance bands. So a lot, that's more like physical therapy based, but they call it the modified throws program. So a lot of it is for the shoulders. And then I do 25 minutes pushing and 25 minutes hills, which is pushing as well, but it's going up a hill, so it's more challenging. And there's drills associated with that too, which is like something like I'll push twice, stop, push twice, stop, or like go backwards, things like that. And then shooting on Tuesday as well. Wednesday, bands, chair and ball skills, which is even more pushing, but it's more like it's on flat ground, and it's kind of just a lot of back and forth pushing, like the 1-2 stop, or like turning, pivoting in the chair. And then I do abs on Wednesday as well. And Thursday I lift, and then I have practice with my local team, which is where I can apply a lot of the chair and ball skills, and obviously the shooting as well. So, and then Friday I have bands, chair and ball skills, and shooting. Saturday I have practice again with my local team. And all of these days I try to ice like 15 minutes at least. And that's kind of my schedule. It's been tough. I've been very consistent with the lifting, and I've been shooting a lot because of practice and just trying to be in the gym, getting shots up. But it's been difficult in terms of like the pushing, for example, the hills, and even the resistance bands, just because of how on the go I always am. So, but that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, that's a lot. We won't tell your coach how much of that you're doing. Jen, how about you?
Yeah, so I get my like workout plan kind of delivered to me like every week, like over an app from my coaches. I'm on the water about like 4 days a week, and the other days of the week I will I'll erg, like using the indoor rowing machine. I'll do core. I'll do like yoga. I got into CrossFit because I was really struggling with motivating myself to lift. And like I found that just like being in a group of people and getting a little bit of instruction kind of motivated me. So now like I'm excited to go to CrossFit. So I probably do that about like 3 or 5 days a week. We always have, almost always have like a second workout most weekdays. And then we have a rest day on Sunday. I have an amazing physical therapist. I see him once at the boathouse with the rest of my team. And then he also works with me at the clinic at Spalding. And I have a lot of like access to different resources because of US Rowing and community rowing, and all of the organizations that have like supported me. So I have access to a nutritionist at US Rowing, access to a sports psychologist through the Para Rowing Foundation, and yeah, it's like it's a busy schedule. I do shoulder stabilization as well. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm supposed to do. And usually I hit like the goal and get like all my workouts like green for the week. And sometimes I don't. So yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do.
So that's cool to have accountability through the app too. Do you find that that's really helpful? Just in terms of, and you also talked about like working out with other people. I guess that's a good question that I hadn't really thought of before, but like, do you find that it's easier for you to keep to your schedule if you have some kind of accountability, like through an app or a coach or another group of people that you've committed that you're going to meet and work out?
Absolutely. The app, like even, like uploads my like heart rate, like data and my, like my split. So my coaches can, like monitor, like how fast I'm going, during my workouts. During COVID, we were at home. The boathouse gave us erg so that we could work out alone and continue like that training. And it was really, I absolutely, like hated being isolated. In the morning, we would have like a meeting like over Zoom and then get to our workouts. And then like later in the day, I would do my CrossFit workout like over Zoom. Like they loaned us some weight training equipment and just, like adapted things. So yeah, COVID was a challenge because I had to like figure out different ways to be accountable, just to be, like in shape for when we got back out on the water in like late spring, like early summer 2020.
Well, that's a good segue really into my next question. I'm just personally fascinated by the mental discipline that it takes to do something like this, to be so committed and so consistent in your training. And so if you guys could talk a little bit about how you just maintain that level of discipline, what helps you, and I'm sure it translates into other aspects of your life as well. I'll go back to you, Jen.
So I just absolutely, like love the sport, like a lot of people, I struggle with mental health issues and depression, anxiety, and being on either like the indoor rower or out on the water, it's very like calming and meditative. And I love, I love to work towards, like a goal to just get better with every practice, and to have like different opportunities to travel and like to aspire to go abroad, like right now. That that definitely keeps me going to have different like life opportunities and experience new things. And I mean, like rowing from the very start, like on the indoor, like rowing machine, I was just, able to see that I was capable of so much more than I thought. And I would, like meet a goal and then, like set another goal and get faster. And it just built so much confidence. I love like the endorphins of working out. I mean, like that is, like definitely, like a motivation. And yeah, I love to push myself. I love having that community with my teammates and like the relationships with them and my coaches. And yeah, there are just like there's just so many like advantages to participating in adaptive sports. And that is like what that's what like keeps me going when I'm having a rough practice. And like and then like I get through it and just learn a lot of life lessons.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm going to move to Jeremy because you're also doing team sports.
Yeah, so it was difficult since COVID started. It was very difficult, especially because a lot of the times I was, well, last summer, that was the first time I really started like training on my own. And so it was all up to me, just like this summer. It was all up to me because my team is a lot farther away. And my coach, he he does check in, which helps. And we have also an app, but it's not really up and running yet. So a lot of it really comes down to just me as an individual. But one thing that I always try to remind myself is that if I don't put in the work for what I want, somebody else is going to put in the work for what I want. So that kind of drives me to stay the course whenever I'm having a bad day. Just like Jenn said, I struggle with anxiety and depression. So a lot of times it can be really tough to keep that same mental discipline. However, I think what makes it easier is just also even just visualizing myself and visualizing the time when it's all going to pay off. So that's been really helping me. And just like she said as well, just the love for the game. And I always talk about how the court, or even like just being on the court, is really like my place of meditation, my place of just like being in my element. So that also definitely helps because it's when I feel the most authentically like myself. So that's kind of the trick for me.
That's awesome. So I'm hearing common things between the two of you so far, just about, first of all of you have an authentic passion for what you're doing, which is so important. But I'm hearing a lot about mindset, accountability, goal setting, just to keep yourselves going. Enock and Elaina, you're doing more individual sports. You want to talk a little bit about how you kind of keep yourself motivated and moving forward? Enock, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So all of those themes ring true with me also. I find that if something interrupts my training schedule, I have a hard time getting back to it. So COVID really ruined it for a while because I couldn't go to the gym, and I could still get outside, of course, but during the winter, that's really tough also. So that really destroyed the training for a while. But luckily the gym's opening back up and things are opening back up so I can get back to it. But also I find that I need a goal. If I don't have a goal, I have a really hard time staying focused and maintaining that training, because then there's not a reason to do it necessarily. And so the goal is the big one for me, which is why I'm always planning something. I always have something in the future to keep me working toward that future. I think that's really what does it for me.
That's excellent. Elaina, how about you?
So like everyone else here, I do have issues with trying to stay on track because either due to like mental health, because I also have anxiety, and I was never diagnosed with it, but I feel like I probably have some degree of undiagnosed ADHD. So that makes it a lot harder to stay on a schedule or do anything beneficial because I'm just all over the place all the time. Um, so it is something that I do find frustrating, and I am trying to get into a mindset where I can create a healthier schedule and motivate myself to do what I know I have to do if I want to keep moving towards my goals with my sport.
This is making me think of, so people who are watching won't know this, but we all five of us recently did a leadership program with Rita Hutchins, which was really good. And she was talking a lot about starting your day with intention. That's what made me think of what you were saying, Elaina, reminded me of that. Just like creating a consistent approach to your day and keeping yourself on a track just like from the get-go. Do any of you, I'm terrible at that. I don't know if any of you do that, kind of like you get up at X time every day and you do these things towards your workouts or your goals, or not so much?
So I wake up at 5 a.m. every day because like rowing is I have to like be at the boathouse around 6:30, 6:45. So rowing like gets like my day started. So I'm up early and I have to walk the dog. I have to like get something to eat, start like hydrating myself, and stretch, and like some mornings I'm able to like write my gratitude list like in my journal, and to like center myself, and to meditate a little bit. And some mornings I go on Facebook or TikTok with whatever leftover time I have. So yeah, it's definitely it's a little bit of a struggle, like sometimes depending on how I feel and how tired I am. But I do, like have that 5 a.m. Wake up time, and first thing is getting some exercise in. It helps my mind, and it helps like helps decrease pain for me. Yeah, the whatever morning training I have is my first, and that gets me going.
That's awesome. So any special considerations that you guys want to mention for people as they're starting on some kind of a workout or sports regimen, in terms of things to keep in mind? Like I'm hearing all of you talk about special care that you give to your shoulders, for example, especially as chair users, either in your regular life or as part of your sport. We have been sharing some videos recently about skincare and making sure that you're checking yourself regularly for pressure sores, making sure that you're well enough hydrated for your kidney function, all of that. So are there tips or things that you want to highlight for people that they should keep in mind and plan for as they're getting started? Jeremy, you look like you're ready to start.
Yeah, for hydration, I usually, like, if it's a day where I am training, I usually try to fill up my bottle to, I have a gallon. So like I usually just try to fill that up because I know that if I get through the day and I drink that, then I'm hydrated enough. Rather than having a small water bottle and filling up over and over and over again, it kind of keeps me able to just measure it as I go along with a gallon. Um, and the same thing, like you said, with just having a routine. It was a lot easier for me when I was at school because I had specific times for class, specific times where I had to be at practice with my coach, or I had to be at practice with an assistant coach. But a routine is literally key for all of it. And just like you said with even just like checking yourself, just always kind of being mindful of how your body feels, like just being in tune with yourself physically, emotionally, mentally on a daily basis is really key.
Awesome. Does anybody else want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I can. So for rock climbing, skincare is definitely a major thing. So I worked with a company in New Hampshire called the Bombville, and they make chainsaw chaps for loggers. So I had them adapt their chainsaw chaps for rock climbing.
Wow.
And so that protects my legs and my lower body, but also I still have to check just in case, because you never know, they could rub or anything could happen. So I definitely check at each rest spot that to make sure everything's going good. But also when I'm just in my wheelchair, if my back starts to hurt, I know there's a problem with my seat because it's not pumped up correctly. So that's another thing about, like Jeremy said, monitoring your body and how you feel. And that's another way to know that something might be off. That's what I use for that. But also he mentioned the routine, and that is definitely key. If I don't have a routine, I'm not probably going to stick with it for sure.
I'm good at creating routines. It's following them that's a bigger challenge. I can come up with them all day long.
Yeah.
Jenn or Elaina, did you want to add anything?
I just think that it's smart when you're, like starting a new sport to consult with a physical therapist and to make sure that like you're using proper body mechanics. I've gotten, like overuse injuries with my shoulders like in the past, and now, like my team has like 2 like really good like physical therapists that I can contact and see, and like they're just helping me learn more about like how to use my body like properly. And I know now, like all the mistakes that I was making, like earlier that were, contributing to pain. And, if I'm using my body like properly and pulling like with the right, like muscles, my pain is, like is I don't have, like those same like pain issues. So yeah, I think that's like important to check in with someone who knows like proper body mechanics.
That's a great tip. Absolutely. I guess my closing question, unless there's more that you guys want to add, is just, what advice, you've given a lot of advice already, but just, a quick recap or words of wisdom that you would have to people who are watching. And maybe everybody isn't going to, go be on the national team or climb El Capitan or, be in a dance competition, but just in terms of physical health and why it's so important, what advice would you have to people about finding something that they love as much as you guys love what you're pursuing?
I guess I'll go. For me, finding something you love is a lot about mental health, because as people with disabilities, we don't always have a way into the community, and adaptive sports has given me that way into the community and given me an outlet to find friends and find people who are like-minded and want to achieve huge goals. And so that I think adaptive sports has really just given me that in.
That's a great point.
I could go next. I think that a lot of times finding what you love can kind of like be an well, we can make it, at least for myself, I've made it an overcomplicated process in the past, even with wheelchair basketball. I loved it from the second that I even sat in the chair. I always loved basketball, but wheelchair basketball is slightly different, obviously. But once I got in the chair, I immediately loved it. However, I kind of also rejected it in a way for a long time because because being so used to playing basketball regularly, I didn't want to feel like I was limiting myself. But in reality, by taking a step back from it, I was limiting myself and I was limiting my potential as an athlete and where, like, the heights that I could reach as an athlete, because um, I could have been doing so much more during my undergrad years in terms of training that would have benefited me in the long run. And of course, like, I do believe that you are right on time, like you're exactly where you need to be. So maybe I just needed that time to mature. But at the same time, in at that period of time, even though I didn't want to feel like I was limiting myself, that's exactly what I was doing. So it really is just about kind of trying to keep the process simple. And it's like, if you love something, literally just follow that. Just follow that feeling that it gives you.
That's excellent. So with maturity comes wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome. Jenn or Elaina, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'm a wheelchair user, but I've like heard from other people with spina bifida who don't use wheelchairs that like they don't want to like participate in like the wheelchair sports or anything like where they're sitting. And yeah, I think that like it's just like it's so like important like if you need that for like balance, like try it out, because like it can really benefit you in so many different ways. It's not like it's not limiting. It gives you some freedom and opportunity, and to just try all sorts of different things. Over like the past several years, I've tried like so many different sports that I talked about like earlier, and I loved all of them and met new people, and like had communities and had all these like new experiences and travel and things like that, and was also like able to stay a lot more healthy, to like stay like out of the hospital just by regularly participating in physical activity. And then like it's also like not too late. Like I never imagined myself doing competitive sports at like a national level. The fact that like this is like happened, that I came down like this path is just it's just mind-boggling. I started out like just doing rowing a couple of times like a week to help with like my mental health and to meet like some new people, and it kind of turned into this like amazing opportunity, because I found out that I had like a talent and a love for this sport. So yeah, just try as many things as possible. There's so many different organizations out there, and don't be afraid to look like stupid or look like you don't know like what you're doing. Just take risks, because that's what like makes life like worth living.
That was really well said. It's just been so cool to listen to all of you talk about how you found and followed your passion and the places that it's brought you, not just, in the world, traveling for what you're doing, but also just in your own mind and with your own physical and mental health. It's just really great. I think makes me think of another thing that we learned from Rita, just about expanding our comfort zone, right? And pushing ourselves outside of our boundaries. And we all can do that regardless of whether it's with sport or job or life in general. So this has been fabulous conversation. Thank you guys so much for being willing to spend some time with us and talk about what you've been doing, give a little tips to people who could, who are interested in getting more physically active and engaged. I really, really appreciate your time, and we will be airing this on our YouTube channel, so you get to see yourselves soon and often. And thank you again for being here and being part of this. I really appreciate it. Thanks, you guys.
No.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.